Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MeanGene Show. We are streaming live here on podbean.com. Hope you are having a wonderful day. It is a Thursday, May 5th, 2022, otherwise known as Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Okay, are you going to go out and have some margaritas? What are you going to do today to celebrate this? I, I get, is it a holiday? Do we call it a holiday? Look, we don't really need much of an excuse to go out and have a good drink. So, hey, it's a holiday as far as I'm concerned. Happy Cinco de Mayo. And man, it's going to be a great show here. Dustin Phifer is going to be joining me here shortly. And when I say shortly, that means he's going to be here like real soon. And let me just go ahead and get him on here. We're going to get this right because I think the other day we didn't get this right, but I think I hit the magic button this time. Dustin, are you with me?
I'm with you, Gene. You got it right on the money this time.
Hey, man, I was just telling everyone happy Cinco de Mayo.
Exactly. It's time to have a good day and then talk some football and maybe enjoy some tacos or something tonight.
Well, see, now you are so conservative because I just said, hey, let's have a good drink. It's margarita day, right? We just any excuse to have a good margarita.
Hey, the margaritas are a given. That's a given. So that's why I said the tacos first. Actually, I took my wife out to dinner last week and we had some good food with some margaritas, and so we might have to just do that again since it's Cinco de Mayo.
I know it, man, and it just snuck up on us so fast. My goodness, April went by, the NFL draft went by, and now here we are doing our post draft show here. And let me just reset the topics here, folks. You're listening to the MeanGene Show. We're streaming live here on Podbean Live, and I have my co-host with me from Ballys Sports Southeast, covers the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets here. We are going to talk post NFL draft here today. Dustin Phifer joining me here, and Dustin, you know what? Because I did some more homework. Besides being at the draft, now the one thing I could say, you probably had a better opportunity to analyze this than I did because I had to try to get interviews and pictures and running back and forth from the media room back out to the main floor to hear the pick and all of this stuff. So I think you might be more prepared for this show than I am today.
I got you covered. Yeah, you were definitely sending me some good picks from the draft, and I was doing a little multitasking too. I had the multi TV setup going with some Braves baseball, the draft, some NBA playoffs, but I definitely did lock in on the draft a good bit, and it's one of my favorite weekends. It kind of gives teams all hope, even regardless of what situation you're in. I can speak for that myself with the Carolina Panthers trying to build something back up, and it's good to see these guys and where they go. And it's like I said, we don't know until they play it down, but it's good for us to try to break down and see what we think about some of these picks.
You know what? And because we didn't do a mock draft, and it's so interesting to see the many variations of mock drafts that are out there, and then to see how this thing kind of play into to order here now. And I guess and just looking at the first round and going with the first pick, and what the Jacksonville Jaguars did, because they set the tone for the entire draft by picking Trayvon Walker, the defensive end from Georgia. And I think what was your thoughts on that pick?
That's that's an interesting pick, Gene. I mean, you had the number one pick last year. You take Trevor Lawrence. You come back this year. You've got the number one pick again. You got a new head coach in Doug Peterson. You're trying to figure stuff out. I think I would have went with more of an established guy who produced more in college. So I probably would have went with Hutchinson number one overall if you're going defensive end. But I see what they were doing. That Georgia defense was loaded. We saw. I think they had 15 players end up going the draft total from that defense. So it was an amazing one, all-time college defense. But Trayvon Walker, he's got the speed and the measurables and the physicality to be one of those top pass rushers. But he did not have that big of numbers in college, so that's what kind of makes me wonder about him a little bit. Now I know it was a star-studded defense, but if you're selecting a guy number one, I'm going to go with the guy who I think I know has produced more and shown it more on a consistent basis, and that's why I probably would have went with Hutchinson number one overall.
Yeah, and you know what, Dustin, I'm going to agree with you because as I sat there and we all waited for the pick there in the media room, I believe I agree with you. I just knew it was going to be Aiden Hutchinson, knowing looking at this guy's film, and I did look at Trayvon Walker's film too, by the way. But I just thought Aiden Hutchinson was going to be the guy that just really is really what the Jacksonville Jaguars needed, Dustin.
I completely agree, Gene. And listen, to show that, and again, this is nothing against Trayvon Walker. He has a chance to still be a very good player, even be a star in this league. Like I said, we have to see what he does when we get there. And you can see from his tape that he does have the ability to continue to develop. But you can see just with the Lions' second pick, Gene, when they saw Hutchinson didn't go number one, they ran that pick to the podium.
Oh, heck yeah.
It was in before the time we were even set to get their guy from Michigan. So I know they were very happy with the way that fell.
And that's it, and that's what and looking at some of the surprises in the first round, that would have to be that ranks up there with one, because just like we said, just like when the Dallas Cowboys had that opportunity a few years ago when CD Lamb was there, I don't know if the Cowboys wanted CD Lamb, or at least I don't know if he was on their radar at that time, but he was on the board. And Detroit was like, "Are you serious?" So we have to draft this guy, and they did so. But let's talk about the Panthers pick, because I know you're excited about Ikem Ekwonu. Did I get it right?
You got it right. I go with Icky. I've already got him. I'm already going with his nickname. And let me tell you, Gene, I couldn't be more excited about this pick. I was going into the draft either wanting a left tackle or a quarterback. We all know the quarterbacks were kind of hit or miss of where they thought they should be drafted, but I was pretty high on Malik Willis, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But once the first 5 picks went defense, I was very shocked, Gene. When you're the Giants, and it worked out for the Giants that that's the guy they wanted, but when you're the Giants and you have pick 5 and pick 7, and you have Carolina in between, knowing that Carolina's going to take a tackle, I thought that the Giants would take whatever tackle they felt they needed and that they wanted with that 5th pick, because they know Carolina was not going to go defense. But they took Thibodeau with the 5th pick, and that left all 3 tackles on the board for the Panthers to have their pick. And listening to Scott Fitterer, the GM of the Panthers, talk, he was shocked that all 3 were there for their options. They would have been happy with any of the 3, but they didn't. They had no clue that they were going to have their pick of the litter, and so they are very happy to get a guy who is a hometown guy, Gene. He went to NC State.
Yeah.
He went to Providence Day right here in Charlotte. Really, where that school is and where he grew up and some of the stuff he talked about, we're only like 10, 15 minutes apart from where I am. So he's a hometown kid through and through. And I think he will be the best left tackle in this draft. He is physical. He is an amazing run blocker. He may need to work on the pass protection a little bit, but the size and the ability that he has with his feet, it's something that the Panthers have not had at left tackle since Jordan Gross, and you know how long ago that was. So they finally addressed the issue and got them a left tackle for the next decade.
Well, so I got into the press room a little late because he was already sitting down. And by the way, he was dapper. This guy, for a big man, I don't know where he found his clothes to fit him, but he looked pretty good in his outfit. And then I got a chance to catch him coming out of the media room, so I got a full body shot. This man is humongous. And I said, let me send this to Dustin, because, man, I know that they are excited in Charlotte to have this guy. And you're right. When the Giants, the Giants, and I think everyone, I don't know about you, Dustin, but everyone in the media room was just waiting to see if and how the Giants were going to screw this up, which I think they did okay. I mean, picking Kayvon Thibodeau as an edge rusher out of Oregon with the 5th pick wasn't bad. I know they didn't get the tackle, but they came back and they covered themselves by getting Evan Neal from Alabama. So I think the Giants did okay with those 2 picks.
They still did okay. I think getting Thibodeau and Neal is a very good haul. Like I said, I would have been okay with the Panthers getting Neal, Icky, or Corral. So I think all 3 are going to be good left tackles in this league. And maybe they had Neal rated higher than Icky, but I just think Icky 6'4", 320, like you said, the ability to move with his feet. Somebody said they just call him. They say he looks for violence on the football field. That's one of the reports that I read. So having a guy like that at your left tackle again, the Panthers, we can talk about them down the road. They still got to address the quarterback spot. They tried something in the draft. They talked about Baker Mayfield. We'll have to talk about that. But last year, Gene, and you know this, the Panthers probably had one of the worst offensive lines in the league. They've got a right tackle in Taylor Moton that they've locked up. So then that's all they had. They didn't have anybody else. So what they do, they have a rookie they drafted from BYU last year who might have played left tackle, but now he's going to play left guard. You put him there. You get the starting center from the Baltimore Ravens and Bradley Bozeman. You get the starting guard from the Super Bowl winning Rams to put at right guard. And then you get Icky at left tackle. They have completely in one season turn their offensive line from a weakness into a strength. And so hopefully that will help. It's still a question at quarterback, but at least who's back there will have a chance with a good offensive line.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I tell you, this draft was so exciting, and if I can just sort of, because I haven't really had a chance I mean, you saw everything on TV. The media this year was a little bit different than the previous drafts that I have attended. The one in Dallas, we were right there in the at AT&T Stadium with the fans, with the players, with the commissioner, and then the one I went to in Chicago. And the one in Chicago, Dustin, was so unique because that was the first one after what, I don't know, 20, 30 years that it had been in New York. And I must admit, I like this road show. I like
I
this
do too.
This NFL Draft Road Show because I think next year, I think it's in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. I just like the fact that the NFL is moving this around. It's more fan oriented. If you watched it on TV, there was a tons, thousands of people out there. Not the ones that that were really close that got lucky because that was a first come first serve for you to get that close. Now they had those selected fans, Dustin, that were really like your
Right.
season ticket holders that were really, really, really close there. But I just really like that. I just think it's a great thing and that's why, you got to put that on your bucket list now because, years before you couldn't do that. The NFL draft now is a big thing for the NFL.
Yeah, I like the road show. I like where they've been traveling around to. It is in Kansas City next year, so those fans will show out. But I got to admit, Gene, and me and you, we're kind of Vegas people, but let's keep the road show going. But let's maybe still have that in Vegas like every other year, every 2 years, because I don't think there's a better spot just to have that for an all weekend thing for people to go do what they want to do afterwards. I mean, it just matched up perfect for it to be in Vegas.
It did, and let me tell you now. We did have an opportunity to do a pregame, a pre-draft show, and I did that with Rudy Reyes with the Rude Dog Show, and we brought on Jeremiah Finley, and that worked out good. The former tight end for the Green Bay Packers, and he sort of talked about his draft experience coming out of Texas, and playing for Mac Brown and that whole 9 yards. And it was just kind of great. But you're right, Dustin. And it was my birthday that weekend.
That's right.
And let me tell you, man, you talking about someone I wasn't confused. I was just overwhelmed with so much that was going on. Not to mention, Dustin, I think I probably walked 25 miles.
Oh, I don't
Because there
doubt
was
it.
so much walking to do. Because the Strip, you've been to Vegas before. The main Las Vegas Strip was shut down for a good portion of it, so you didn't have any choice but to walk. You already walked when you're in Vegas, but there was some extra walking going on. But they really did a great job. So let's go from that one New York team to the other. It was a New York draft weekend, man. The Jets, Sauce Gardner with the 4th pick went to. That's the cornerback out of Cincinnati. He went to the New York Jets, and then the Jets says, "No, we're not done yet." They came back with because they had 3 picks in the first round, so they
had 2 picks in the top 10, just like the
2
Giants. So
picks in the top 10.
New
Yes.
York teams had 4 picks out of the top 10.
So I have to say, in many years, we have criticized the New York team, especially the Giants and the Jets, and maybe the Jets more so than the Giants, because at least the Giants got some Super Bowl victories, to point towards. But I have to applaud the Jets. Number one for picking up Sauce Gardner, and then they picked up Garrett Wilson, the Ohio State wide receiver, and then although he was not the first wide receiver selected in this draft. And then the Jets came back and did it again with Jermaine Johnson, Dustin?
Man, let me tell you, and I'd go further than that to the first 4 picks, Gene. This is a home run draft for the New York Jets. And again, we're talking on potential. We're talking about what people can do, and obviously they have to go do it on the field.
Right.
But just looking off the players that they drafted, the Jets got significantly better in this draft. And again,
Oh my goodness.
it's hard, but you don't want to. You have 2 top 10 picks. It's hard to really mess that up. You're going to get good football players in the top 10, but Sauce Gardner was the best corner in the draft. They get him, which was big because really him and Stingley were like the top 2 corners that people were trying to nab. So you get him, and then you get the best wide receiver in the draft in Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, and you give a guy to Zach Wilson to finally give him a chance to have that number 1 weapon to succeed. Now, we'll see how the offensive line does. That may still be a question mark. They did draft a tackle, I believe, in the 3rd round from Louisiana. So they addressed all their needs. But then you talk about the value they got for Jermaine Johnson. And Gene, I'm a Florida State guy, so I follow them very closely. Mm-hmm. This guy transferred from Georgia and had an unbelievable season with Florida State. And he was projected to be a top 10 pick. And they jumped back late in the 1st round and get him 26th overall. He had 12 sacks for Florida State last year and 18 tackles for loss. I mean, the guy was a monster. So you get the best wide receiver in the draft, you get the best cornerback in the draft, and then you add one of the top-end rushers in the draft. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it's a home run for the Jets. And with Salah going into his 2nd year, Zach Wilson going into his 2nd year, there's a lot of optimism for this thing finally going in the right direction.
Yeah, it's just amazing, and no longer can we make fun of the Jets. And I did get a chance to sit in the presser for Sauce Gardner, and this guy, I tell you, I've never seen a kid so confident.
Absolutely.
I mean, and his marketing, whoever's behind his marketing, man, they got it. This kid's gonna make a lot of money. If he doesn't make it on the football field, he's going to make it selling that sauce, right?
he definitely is. He's right in New York. He's got that confidence, and he was one of the main reasons that Cincinnati's defense was that good to go to the playoffs. And, Gene, we mentioned all 3 of those picks, and the 4th pick that I wanted to mention, we talk about the best corner, the best receiver, one of the top edge rushers. Well, in the 2nd round, they got the best running back in the draft. They took the first running back off the board, and Breece Hall from Iowa State. I mean, you partner him with another rookie they got last year in Carter from North Carolina, and now they've got a duo in the backfield. So they did a good job of bolstering their defense to help Zach Wilson, and they gave him another running back and a top wide receiver to help him. So the Jets are one of the teams, you don't say this often, Gene, but I'll be curious to watch some of their games to see how some of these young guys do next year.
Yeah, and if I'm Robert Saleh, I'm like, okay, give me an extension now because I'm about to do something with these picks, man. The Jets, oh my goodness, they will probably be the better team in New York this year, and I cannot wait till the schedules come out, the season starts, because I will be watching the Jets. Hell, don't even put it past me, Dustin, to catch a flight up there, and I've never seen any of the New York teams play. In New York, other than the closest I've ever got was Rutgers. I went over to their stadium to watch a college game many years ago. But man, it would be exciting. But Dustin, I got to go back and when you say now, I tend to think a little different on these wide receivers in this draft because I was shocked. Number one, that a wide receiver was going to go in the 1st round. I actually thought that they would probably slip because there was so many good linemen, tackles, and edge rushers in this draft that I didn't think the receivers were going to get up there. But when you say that, what's his name, Garrett Wilson was the best, but the Falcons saw differently, though. They thought Drake London from USC was the best. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think they're right there. I think they're 2 good receivers, and I think the reason you saw so many receivers go towards the top, Gene, is because from what I heard from this receivers class, it sounds like there's a lot of receivers that can come in pretty quickly and be number 1 receiver guys. And you don't get that too often. Sometimes it takes a year or 2, even sometimes 3 years for those guys to develop into full number 1 receivers. But when you have guys and I think it's really close, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Olave, Jamison Williams from Alabama. I mean, all those guys I think have the ability to be playmakers. And I like what I like what the Falcons did with that 7th pick. They had to add a weapon to help Mariota. But, I thought maybe they would go Malik Willis there. And so, again, Malik Willis was one of the more fascinating – the quarterback thing was one of the more fascinating things in the draft. But, yes, those receivers, you're right. I think they're pretty close 1-2 with Wilson and London. But I think they both have a chance to be explosive playmakers right off the bat when they step on the field.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Wilson, Olave, and Williams because they all got drafted. Like it seems like once the Jets took Wilson, the Saints says, "Okay, let's." You had 3 wide receivers just go back to back to back like that. But
the Lions traded up from 32nd to 12th to get Jamison Williams. So that shows you how much they believed in getting him, and he's got Tyreek Hill speed. When we talk about speed. So that's why I say he is a chance to be just an explosive playmaker in this league.
Now, the shocker for me, and I'm not going to say this because this is my home state and I'm from the great state of Arkansas, but Treylon Burks to me would have been the first one because of his size. And I don't know how he dropped the Titans got a good wide receiver, and I don't know how and what the Washington Commanders was thinking about with Johan Dotson. Not saying Dotson is not a good receiver, but I didn't see any film on him, and that's probably my fault. But I just thought Treylon Burks, we're talking about a big receiver that can catch and run and that can get open. So at Tennessee.
It's funny that you mentioned that with Tennessee and Treylon Burks because, we get on here and we're recapping the draft and we're talking about who got drafted, but a couple of big draft night trades that really shook up some teams. And Tennessee is one of them, trading their number 1 receiver, A.J. Brown, to the Philadelphia Eagles, which I think is just an awesome move for Philadelphia to give Jalen Hurts a number 1 guy. And so, like you said, with that size, with Burks coming in, I think Tennessee is going to be expecting him to kind of step in and be that good. I know it's early in his career, but they're going to try to get him to step in and be that go-to guy right off the bat with A.J. Brown now in Philly.
Yeah, that was a shocker there, and everyone in the media room thought it was too, Dustin. But I'm really happy. I'm happy. I just was really shocked that so many wide receivers. It seemed like it was a domino effect though. Once what's his name from the London, Drake London went, then it just seemed like it was going to be interesting. So. And I know we're going to just skip around a little bit, folks, as we cover the post NFL draft show here on the MeanGene streaming live here on Podbean. Hope you're enjoying the show. Got a couple of folks in the chat room there. Hope you're enjoying the show. We got Dustin Phifer on from Ballys Sports and Ballys Sports Southeast. So I have to ask your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I was
waiting for it, Gene.
Come on now. I was not shocked at all, and I had said previously, and I had said it on the show, on the iHeartRadio show with Rudy Reyes and Joe Michael Finley, that and Rudy is a Steelers fan also. Now he thought Malik Willis. And Mel Kiper thought Malik Willis. I don't know. And I knew it was going to be Kenny Pickett. And the reason why, because, hey, when you have a good quarterback like that in your backyard, so to speak, and when I say that because the Pittsburgh Panthers play their home games at Heinz Field, they practice at the Pittsburgh Steelers facility, the Art Rooney facility there in Pittsburgh. And this guy's damn good. Now, many, many, many years ago, Dustin, they had a quarterback in Pittsburgh that went to the University of Pittsburgh, and they let him get away. And I didn't think they were going to make that mistake again. And I'm talking about Dan Marino, a Hall of Famer, who the Pittsburgh Steelers could have drafted to replace Terry Bradshaw, because Bradshaw was already at the end of his career. And, they stuck with Mark Malone, his backup, but they could have got Bradshaw. And I just didn't think the Steelers were going to screw this up. And I'm so glad they didn't. I like Kenny Pickett.
So here's the thing. I like Kenny Pickett. I'm not mad at the pick. You get the quarterback off the board at 20. Most of the times quarterbacks are going in the top 5, top 10. Like I said, I thought the Panthers had a chance to take a quarterback at 6, and Pickett and Willis were both on their board as well. As you know, David Tepper was a former minority owner of the Steelers, and he's a University of Pittsburgh alum. So I think he really did like Pickett as that guy. but maybe just not that high up at 6 because it seems like everybody didn't value him that high. So to get him at 20, I don't have an issue with it. Here's my thing between the two guys. I think they both can be really good quarterbacks in this league. They both can throw it. They both actually have legs and can run the ball. I think Pickett obviously can come in, and he's a guy that can probably come in and play sooner and play right away. I just was more on Malik Willis because I think the upside of him has a chance to really go to superstar status if it all clicks for him, because I think he's got all the ability in the world to be one of those next, dual threat guys like a Josh Allen, like somebody like that. So I just believe in his upside more. And I think Pickett is the more stable pick where he can still be a very good quarterback, but maybe just not go to the high levels that Willis may go to. But again, Pittsburgh doesn't need that. They like to play good defense. They like to run the ball, and they like to have a quarterback who can just make smart decisions and not make mistakes. So, but the reason I leaned Willis, Gene, is because, and maybe it was a smokescreen, but from everything I heard, that Mike Tomlin was in love with Malik Willis.
Well, and I know, and that could be so tricky, when we saw all of the footage there and seeing like, and the same thing could be said about the other quarterback, the Ole Miss quarterback, or is it Mississippi State quarterback?
Yeah, Ole Miss, Matt Corral. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so because he spent a lot of time with him too, and the same positive reviews was coming from that what do you call it, pro day. But the one reason why the Steelers did not take Malik Willis is because they sort of been down that road before. They had Cordell Stewart. The Steelers have experienced the running / type, quarterback, and you just said it, Dustin. They just like a quarterback that can make good decisions. They really have some great receivers. They don't want a quarterback running the ball when they got all of these great receivers that they have invested in. And I just think they do like that pocket presence, and that's what they're going to get out of Kenny Pickett. And I think that's why. That's not a knock on Malik Willis at all. Malik Willis is going to be a damn good quarterback for somebody. And as long as Ryan Tannehill is willing to mentor him.
Yeah, so let me ask the $1 million question to you here. Then I know they brought Mitch Trubisky in for the Steelers, and I know it's just a 2-year deal, and they probably can get out of it whenever. But I'm going to ask the $1 million question, Gene. Does Kenny Pickett start any games for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year?
You know what, Dustin, that's a tough question because I think he has a better chance, especially being that he was drafted in the first round. Believe me, they're not going to sit on this guy. I think he has a hell of a shot of starting this. And then the Steelers turned around and drafted another quarterback in the late round. So this quarterback competition, and Mason Rudolph is still there, believe it or not. This quarterback competition is going to be extraordinary because, and unfortunately, they lost Dwayne Haskins, and I think he might have been the front runner, as far as being a starter. But I think this thing is wide open. But I think Kenny Pickett is the front runner, and I think at the end of the day, I don't know what Trubisky is going to show us that we haven't seen. I'm sure this competition is going to be very, very interesting. But I think Pickett is going to be your man. I think it's going
to be so interesting because I am actually a little higher on Trubisky than most people. I think that he has the ability. He's got the athleticism. I think he kind of got a raw deal in Chicago. Yes, he didn't play well, but we all saw that Nagy was in over his head, and he helped Nagy go to the playoffs one year. So
yeah, he did. He really did.
So it's hard to forget that. And then he went to Buffalo, and obviously he didn't play a lot, but the times he did get to play, whether it was preseason or whatever, he really showed some good stuff. So I think it's this situation reminds me of last year's Chicago Bears situation. Chicago brought in Andy Dalton, told him he was going to be the starter, and then they went out and drafted Fields, and we all knew Fields was going to be the guy to play. And I think Trubisky is a lot better than Andy Dalton. So that's why this competition is going to be interesting. They brought him in probably telling him, hey, you're going to be our starter. And then they go and draft Pickett. So, and you're right. Pickett is an older guy, Gene. He's almost 24. So this is not a guy you're going to sit around on for 2 or 3 years. This is a guy who's going to be ready to come play right away at that age.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of many, many years ago. The Panthers had a guy that came out of, was it Florida? He was 26, 20. He was almost 27. Remember?
That was the great Chris Winkie from Florida State.
Yeah, Chris Winkie was, oh my goodness. Did he go to college late? He was like 26 years old.
He played some professional baseball or something, and then went back to college. And yeah, when he was drafted, he was 25, 26 years old.
So Pickett is not in that category, but I just think, they saw enough. And remember, he had an advantage over everyone else because they saw him a lot. And when I say they saw him, he's right there. And I just think he's going to be comfortable. I know he's going to be comfortable playing in Heinz Field. I just think he's going to be comfortable. I think the Steelers knew what they were doing, and it was Colbert's the GM. He just retired. It was his last draft, and I think he did a pretty good job of getting this guy. But I want to talk to you also, Dustin, about and I want to keep it in the AFC North. The Ravens. It seems like every time the Steelers do something, the Ravens got a counter, and the Ravens are known about their defense. But I think they got one hell of a deal in the second round in David Ojabo.
I think they had an amazing draft. I really do.
My goodness.
I mean, they did trade Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals. And people are kind of up in arms about that because obviously they don't have too many good receivers as it is. They did draft Bateman last year, but he was hurt. They had Hollywood Brown. Of course, they got Mark Andrews at the tight end spot. But as we all know, the Ravens with Lamar Jackson really haven't had like that true number one receiver. So when they traded him, obviously people were up in arms like, well, hey, that's one of Lamar's best friends, one of the receivers. You're taking back his weapons. But Hollywood Brown was about to get paid or is about to get paid. Yeah. And let's be honest, Gene, he's good, but I don't think he should be paid like a number one receiver. He hasn't shown that type of ability. So I can see why they would move off of that before having to pay him. And you're right. Then they go out and they just kill it in the draft. Before we even get into Ojabo, their 2 first-round picks are about as home run as you can get. They get Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, who honestly at some talks was a top 5 pick. It's just because they were going with defensive ends before safeties. He is a playmaker at safety, and it's gonna. I mean, I don't want to put this name in there, but it's going to be like having they had Ed Reed back there for all those years, and now they're going to have this safety to lock this thing down for years to come. Then they get Tyler Lindbaum, the starting guard from Iowa, in the 25th pick of the first round, and he's probably the best interior offensive lineman in the draft. So you get those two, and then you add Ojabo, just like you said, in that second round. And yes, Ojabo is coming off an Achilles. Yes, he may be out most of this year, but that is a guy. If he was healthy, he was going to be a top 10, top 15
he
pick.
was definitely going to be a top 10.
And the Ravens are a perfect organization to where they are good enough to where he can maybe miss most of the year, and then when he comes back, they're just going to add another weapon to that defense. So we'll see what happens with the receivers on offense, but we talk about it. The Ravens defense, the Steelers defense, that's what wins both of those teams games, and their defense just got reloaded.
Oh, I know. And if you're a Steelers fan, which I am, you better keep your eye on what the Ravens are doing, because they just reloaded, man. They are going to be outstanding. So.
And Gene, let's not forget that the Ravens were the most injury-ravaged team of all of last season. Their running backs, their top 2 corners. So they're going to get all those guys back, plus what they add in the draft. And Lamar's going to have a chip on his shoulder still trying to get a contract. I think the Ravens are poised for a bounce-back year.
Yeah, I think so, too. I want to get your thoughts on Atlanta. Now, we know they picked up Drake London from USC. But were you at all surprised in that third round that they decided to go with Desmond Ridder, the quarterback from Cincinnati?
I was stunned. And I'm going to be honest with you, Gene, and maybe I just and you can tell me what you think. Maybe I completely misread the ball on Malik Willis. But again, I am – from what I've seen, I'm very high on this kid. I think he was the best pick for a QB in the draft. It's not just his ability, it's his attitude, his work ethic. I mean, I just think he gets it. And I thought he was easily going to be a first-round pick. So when I saw him fall out of the first round, my first thought was, I need the Panthers to trade back up immediately and get Malik Willis. And then he just keeps sliding. Yeah. Atlanta passes a couple times. Now, this is a guy who's from Atlanta, Malik Willis, Gene. He's from Atlanta, hometown guy. And so when they popped up and they took Desmond Ridder, I thought that was the perfect spot for them to take Willis. I like Ridder. I think he could be a decent quarterback. I just think I was shocked that they went with Ridder over Willis. And again, maybe I'll be completely wrong about Willis, and the reason he dropped is justifiable. I just think that a lot of teams passed on him. Washington passed on him multiple times. The Panthers didn't go up and get him, who I thought they loved him. So I'm just, it might work out for Atlanta with Ridder and how they're going to do things, but I just think they missed an opportunity to bring that hometown kid in and give him a chance to be a star.
Yeah, that third round was very, very interesting. I mean, it just sort of set the tone for the rest of the draft, just like the first round did. But yeah, I was shocked too, and I know, and then Malik Willis was, he kept his head into this draft. He tweeted, "Oh my goodness, I haven't been drafted yet." He tweeted that out there, but I'm shocked, but Dustin, it makes me wonder because hey, these scouts and people. A lot of times it's a knee-jerk reaction because somebody will sit and see like, well, what's going on here? Why isn't this guy being taken off the board? And I think Tennessee has done well, or at least I thought they did well. And now, because Tennessee decided to draft him, well, Mr. Tannehill feels like, whoa, did nobody tell me about this? So what's going to happen in Tennessee? Now, so he finally gets drafted. Now he feels like, okay, well, I don't even know if I'm wanted in Tennessee.
And listen, Gene, let's be real. If you're Ryan Tannehill, yes, you're a good quarterback. I know the Tennessee Titans had the number 1 seed last year. I know that Tannehill's led them to multiple playoff seasons. But, Gene, we all know the main reason that they're not getting over the hump is because of the quarterback position.
Thank you.
And again, Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback. He deserves to be a starter. But until you prove to your team's not just looking to yes, it's great to make the playoffs every year, but your team's looking to win a championship. And if you can't be that guy, they're going to look to find other ways. So I think it's completely ridiculous for a Tannehill to come out and act so upset about that. You're not Aaron Rodgers. You're not Patrick Mahomes. You're not Tom Brady. You don't have the stature to come out and say stuff like that. I know you've been a good quarterback on a good team, but they're trying to win a championship. And if they think this guy they're not saying he's going to come in and start over you right now. Like I said, Willis is a project. It's going to take 1 or 2, maybe even 3 years. So it's a perfect situation for him to go sit behind them and groom him until maybe Tannehill does run out of luck in Tennessee. So I just don't like those comments from Tannehill. I don't think really anybody should say it. You should always welcome your guy into a team regardless of who it is. But guys like Mahomes, Rodgers, and Brady have a lot more leeway to say that than somebody like Ryan Tannehill.
I agree. And we all saw what happened in the playoffs with Cincinnati went up there, and Ryan Tannehill was just as more at fault for them losing that game as anyone because he had a horrible playoff game. So I'm thinking those comments were probably made out of frustration because he sees the writing on the wall. Okay, because now he sees like, well, look, if I'm playing terrible, then they're going to go and get this guy. And I don't think he's at that point where I do agree with him that, as a starting quarterback, I don't know, maybe he should have some, not a say-so, but to be informed. But I think it says a lot that the fact that he wasn't informed, Dustin, that they were going to draft a quarterback. And granted, it was in the 3rd round, but this was a quarterback that should have been drafted in the 1st round.
Yeah, it does. And you're right, but we've talked about this all the time, Gene. This is a business, and there's a lot of times where we think, we both think that the organization should give the player a heads up, this and that, depending on how long they've been there. But we all see that's just not the case. I mean, how many times do we see it each year where a guy gets cut and he doesn't even know it? He's been there forever. Yeah. I mean, it's just a business. And, that's just same thing kind of with the Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown thing. I mean, they trade Hollywood Brown. He's one of Lamar's best friends. And it sounds like Lamar didn't know a lot about it. And he's their star quarterback. So it's just a business thing.
Yeah. It is just a business thing. So sticking in that 3rd round, that 3rd round was electrifying as well. What are your thoughts on Matt Corral?
So yeah, Gene, I'm excited about the guy. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record on this show today, but again, the Titans drafted Malik Willis 8 spots before we got Corral. I just think that was the perfect situation for the Panthers to go get Willis. But it sounds like Ben McAdoo and Matt Rule really liked Matt Corral. And there's a lot to like about the kid, Gene. I mean, he's he's just a gamer. He's tough. He plays for his teammates. He takes up for his teammates. He's very loyal. And he loves the game and he works hard. So I think there's a lot of good things. He's got a cannon for an arm. People, I think, said in the draft he's got the best arm. They said he's got a Brett Favre-like arm, which that says something. And so I think he's got a lot of upside. The biggest knack on him is A, he's a little small. And then B, he also likes to – he has legs as well. He likes to run, and he really likes to – he takes too many hits. And so if he's going to make it in the NFL and he wants to have a chance to be the Panthers guy going forward, those are things he's got to learn to take care of his body, get a little bigger, and learn to slide if you are taking off. But I think there's some upside there. You know, it's always tough for whether third or fourth round quarterbacks are going to hit. We've seen it hit with people like Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson, and then we've also seen a lot of them just not make it. So I think he's got a chance. It's a good situation for him because we all know Darnold might start this year, but he's not the guy going forward, and they don't really have anybody else on the roster right now. So if he really wants to try to take a chance to win that spot, he's got a good chance to come in and do it.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that CBSSports.com, which I'm referencing most of what I'm looking at here, they give you guys a B on the selection of Matt Corral. So they thought it was a great value for you guys. So we're going to see how that plays out. But I do want to ask you, because it seems there was a lot of controversy here in this draft, and the Washington Commanders, here they are under a brand new name here, and they have a chance to sort of reestablish a new identity for themselves. They drafted Sam Howell from UNC, and I know that, and they got him in the 5th round. Now, the only question is they already have Carson Wentz, who they just acquired. So what is Carson Wentz going to have to compete with Sam Howell for the job?
Yeah, I don't think he'll compete year one. I think Carson will definitely be the starter, and it's his team, and I think he's got a chance to do some good things there. I mean, Carson is he's a hit or miss guy. You know this. Everybody knows this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was like terrible in Indy last year, but when you end the season with a chance to make the playoffs and you lose to the worst team in the league like that, we all knew how it was going to end. But he's got some weapons around him in Washington, so I think he can do some good things with the Curtis Samuel and McLaurin. Those guys. I mean, I really think he's got a chance to do something. So I think it's his team, but I like what Washington did there. I mean, that's 5th round value on a quarterback who had kind of like a 2nd round grade. So I don't mind the value. Howell is also a North Carolina kid who went to high school 10 minutes from where I'm at and then played at North Carolina. And he's got a good arm. He's got some athleticism. His decision making, has to really get better. But again, I think he'll have some time to grow behind Wentz. I think Wentz is the starter. I think it's pretty entrenched going into this first year for him.
Trey McBride, the tight end
Yes.
out of Colorado State, right?
Yes.
He is now with the Arizona Cardinals, and of course the Cardinals have their own drama going on. But what do you make of that pick of Trey McBride going to the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, the first tight end off the board. I mean, and it took a while for a tight end to go in the draft, and I think it's a good pick. I mean, as long as you can keep adding weapons around a Kyler Murray, and now we see that they're really going to need him, and they're also going to. I think that really with the DeAndre Hopkins suspension, I think they knew it was coming, which is why they went and made the move for Hollywood Brown as well. So I, as much as I say Hollywood Brown's not a number one receiver, I think he's got a chance to flourish in this offense with Murray in the deep ball. So I think that'll be interesting to watch. And like you said, now you have a 2 tight end set, Gene. You got McBride and Zach Ertz. That's a pretty good tight end set to have for Kyler Murray. And so it's weird times out there in Arizona. Like you said, you got the Hopkins stuff. You got Kyler Murray, who doesn't really seem happy, doesn't want to play until he gets the contract. So we'll see how it plays out, but it's good to see they were at least trying to add weapons around the quarterback.
Yeah, and they're going to need that 2 tight end set, especially over in that NFC West, which is starting to be, just really popular because the Rams definitely are going to throw some different looks at you. Now, going back to the first round, and I know we're jumping all over the place. I'm here in Houston. Dallas is about 2.5 hours up the road. According to most of the fans from the Dallas Cowboys, they were not impressed with their pick, Tyler Smith, the tackle from Tulsa, with the 24th pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one of those sexy picks that jumps out to you like a CeeDee Lamb or whatnot. But I mean, let's be honest. Dallas really got hurt on the offensive line this year, losing La'el Collins. They've always had injuries the past couple of years, so I mean they had to get a guy to kind of shore up this line for Dak and for Zeke Elliott and those guys. So it's not going to be the home run pick that really sticks out, but he should be at least a starting guard. The first day of the season. So I think it's okay. It's not a home run pick, but I think it's a good pick to shore up that offensive line. Their draft was just kind of like you said. It was just kind of They took a defensive end in round 2 from Ole Miss who has some upside, and then they took a wide receiver from South Alabama in round 3. So it's just one of those drafts. Jerry Jones always likes to go out there and make that home run pick to get everybody's attention. But this year was just more of a quiet draft, and that offensive line will be a starter and will help them going forward.
And can we just talk about the head scratchers of the first round from the Green Bay Packers?
Oh, man. Don't get me started, Gene.
Let's talk about the Packers. So I hope we're not offending anyone. Actually, if we
I'm going to offend some people. I'm just going to let you know. So.
We know what the Green Bay Packers are dealing with, what they lost their star wide receiver. And I can just tell you when that 22nd pick came, and in that media room, it was just everyone was like, "Whoa!" And when they got is it Quay Walker?
Yeah, Quay Walker.
Walker from Georgia. Which now, hey, Georgia. I think their entire football team got drafted. It seems like
yes, pretty much.
I get that, but a linebacker was a shocker for the Green Bay Packers, and then they came back. And with another pick, and got a defensive tackle from Georgia and Devontae Wyatt. So what the hell was the Packers thinking about?
Well, man, Gene, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was about to say it. I'm not trying to. I'm gonna offend somebody. If Packers fans are in here, what the hell are the Green Bay Packers doing, Gene? You have Aaron Rodgers back. You finally convinced him to come back to the Packers. You convinced him to be a part of this. And again, he's got a new deal, but let's not get it twisted. His deal's still year to year the way he acts. So you're trying to win right now. You lose Devontae Adams. Your receiver group is not looking. You lose Valdez-Scantling. I mean, that's two of your top receivers right there. You lose.
Oh yeah.
And you're trying to build something back to put some weapons around him. You have 2 first-round picks, which I think what they should have done was traded both of those picks to move up and get one of the top receivers, kind of like the Lions did.
Yeah.
Maybe get an Olave, maybe get a Jameson Williams, somebody, because those guys are already with some of the top receivers in the draft. And if they get partnered with Aaron Rodgers, they're just going to take off. So I was shocked. I mean, probably the shock of the first round, Gene. Like,
oh, yeah.
I just don't get it. The Green Bay Packers had a top 10 defense last year. They lost a playoff game, Gene, only giving up 13 points. So, again, do these players help make their defense and their team better? Yeah, both of those guys from Georgia are very good defensive players, and it's going to shore up that defense even more and help them get off the field. But the defense, as hard as it is to say it, because you have Aaron Rodgers, the defense was not the reason you lost the playoff game at home last year to the San Francisco 49ers. So you have to go get that guy, especially Devontae Adams is like the production of 2 wide receivers. So you got to go get a guy. And they did get a guy in the second round from North Dakota State who people like, and he may be good. But again, they missed a chance to go get a surefire guy who could be maybe a 1,000-yard guy from day one. And, Gene, I'm just going to tell you, I know they have Aaron Rodgers, and they will be in contention. Their division's still weak. They'll probably win the division and be right there. But I just don't have them as part of the top 2 or 3 Super Bowl contenders in the NFC because I think they're behind those other teams.
Yeah, maybe, the scouting, the GM, maybe they just saw something that none of us saw, which, maybe they thought it was the defense that probably needed to give them. Maybe they figured like, what, our defense really need to be twice as good because Aaron Rodgers don't have the weapons. We might be hurting for points, this season. So our defense is going to have to keep us in games. I don't know. I don't know. But amazing. And everyone
Gene, do you truly think Aaron Rodgers was happy when he saw those names pop up?
Oh, no.
In the first round?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
And again,
It's
they're going to be there because they have the guy named Aaron Rodgers. He can carry him. But if you like, again, you weren't going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and so now like you were coming up just short. So now you lose the best receiver right now in the NFL, and you all you do to replace him is draft a guy in the second round.
Yeah, everyone was just shaking their head after that. Now, I can tell you one guy that is going to start. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, they only had what, just the one pick there, and it was the 30th pick. But I think they
Mm-hmm.
hit the nail on the head with George Karlaftis, the edge guy out of Purdue. This
Yes.
kid is going to start. And that Kansas City, now you talk about defenses that improve. The Chiefs defense improved a little bit too. But this guy right here is going to be a game changer for the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs are another team that won the draft for me. I mean, there's going to be a few teams where you like their draft and stuff like that, but the Chiefs really did a great job of reloading. You lose a guy like Tyrann Mathieu, who's the quarterback of your defense, so you go out and you add a cornerback in Trent McDuffie with that 21st overall pick from Washington, so you get you a corner there, and then like you said, you add the defensive imprint from Purdue. Who I think is really going to be a good pick. So you
Oh,
do
yeah.
that, and then I love their round 2 pick of their receiver Sky Moore from Western Michigan. That
Oh,
guy
yeah.
he's small, he's 5'10", 195, but he can fly. And if you put him with, you lose Tyreek Hill and stuff like
Hmm.
that, but if you
Hmm.
you, you put him with Juju Smith-Schuster and Valdez Scantling and McCole Hardman, you
Hmm.
still got a group of receivers right there
They really do.
that is really good. So I love what they did with their first 3 picks of the draft, and it should set them up to be again one of those AFC contenders.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, were there any other head scratchers for you in this draft?
That the Green Bay Packers one to me was just the most, and another team who really, and again they operate a different way, Gene. But the New England Patriots, some of their picks had me
Oh,
kind of
my
kind of
goodness.
scratching my head a little bit. But you know how Bill Belichick operates. He's a little different. So you see kind of some weird names pop up, and we'll see how they develop. But I just thought they could have done a little more. I really think they need to be careful, Gene. Like I know they have Mac Jones, and they like where he's going, but that division it was the Bills have already taken it over being the division champs, but that
True.
division from top to bottom is getting a lot better, and the Patriots need to be on the lookout because I think that they're probably out of all 4 teams, they probably improved the least throughout this offseason.
I agree with you on that. Even with free agency, because the year before they went all out, but this year they were conservative, and it seems like in this draft, I don't know what's going on. It's not the same people making those decisions. I know Belichick is there, but front office has changed a lot there in New England. So, and I think we saw it as a result of this draft, because the Raiders picked up one of where they picked up the McDaniels, and they picked up another former Patriots executive. So and I think it showed in this draft. I would have to say that a steal that came in the 5th round, the Atlanta Falcons, they got BYU running back Tyler Algier. Now, I saw this guy. Now, Dustin, and I'm gonna tell you the only reason why I know about this guy is because I play fantasy football, college football, DraftKings.
Okay.
And on many occasions, this running back out of BYU, Tyler Algier, was running the ball like crazy. And I don't know how the Falcons found out about him, but they did. They got him. And I guarantee you he's going to be playing this year.
I have seen some of his action because I do like to stay up and watch some late West Coast games, and I agree with you. I do think he can be a steal. These running backs, you can find some good running backs in the mid rounds of the
Hmm.
draft, and I think he will be one of those guys.
I agree. Now, okay, Mr. Irrelevant, which I don't know where that came from, but I think it's sort of it's a how do you describe Mr. Irrelevant? Because it sounds like what it is, irrelevant, right?
It sounds like what it is. It's irrelevant, but it's still a good honor to know that you got drafted. You got a team to call your name, and hey, I mean, it's kind of weird to me, Gina. I go both sides. It's like I'd like to have my name called on the draft day and get drafted by a team, but at the same time, if I don't go and I that's just one pick apart basically, and I go undrafted, then I can kind of have, I mean, not necessarily my pick, it depends on who calls, but I have a choice of where I want to go kind of.
But how does a guy who played his 4-year starter, had over 12,000 yards, 81 touchdowns to 33 interceptions.
Yeah.
How does he become irrelevant? How does Brock Purdy, who was another one of those guys who I had on my fantasy college.
Yeah, he was a very good college player.
He
Very
was
good.
a very good college player. How does this guy become the last pick of the draft?
It's just one of those things, Gene, where what happened, I think what hurt him again was how late that quarterback run came, because normally you get that stretch of 4 or 5 quarterbacks in round 1 into round 2, but really we only had one go in round 1, and then the run of quarterbacks really didn't come until between round 3 and round 5, so that just kept sliding him back, and that's what made him Mr. Irrelevant.
Okay, this is what I'm going to say, and I'm actually going to read this. Purdy was one of the most productive quarterbacks in Cyclones program history. And he was the 262nd pick. Am I right? Is that Mr. Irrelevant? That last pick?
That's Mr. Irrelevant. Yes, sir.
And normally these guys don't even make the team. We never hear anything from these guys. I haven't done the history of the last pick of the NFL draft, but this kid is good, Dustin. And he went to the San Francisco 49ers, who is coached by who? Mr.
Right.
Shanahan.
Mr. Shanahan. Hey, listen, that he could go in and he, if they somehow trade Jimmy G and they give Trey Lance a starting job, he could be the backup right away and be right there to get ready for some playing time if Lance gets hurt.
And he will change. And if I was him, I would say, you know what? Can you now change my name to Mr. Relevant? I just hate
and they
that
give
title.
him the jersey and everything.
The jersey and everything. And I'm like, come on, you kidding me, man? I was a 4-year starter, and this guy had some good numbers. I was shocked that it was him. I said, no way Brock Purdy is going to be Mr. Irrelevant. There's no way.
But those are the kind of picks you have to hit on. And I think, again, he probably wasn't happy he went in the 7th round, but I think you hit a nail on the head. The San Francisco is a perfect spot for him to go.
Perfect spot. And there was one more, Dustin, that I wanted to talk to you about. And of course, now look, I don't want to show any favoritism here, but I am more than happy with DeMarvin Leal going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, because this kid was projected to be a 1st round or early 2nd round. And for some reason, the Steelers waited and waited and waited, and they got this kid out of Texas A&M in the 3rd round. And what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a good athlete, 6'4", 291, and Texas A&M, he played in that SEC, so he played with that speed. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's a very good pick that late in the draft, and he's that kind of build that the Steelers build into those monster pass rushers. I mean, you talk about you obviously got Watt on the outside, but then you talk about a Bud Dupree before he left, and he's kind of that same build. So I definitely think he's the guy to watch who could come in and really make an impact right away.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So this draft, overall, I mean, it was just a great draft. And I'll have to say collectively that the talent continues to get better and better. If you're a Georgia Bulldog, I tell you what, you got to be proud of you guys going to the NFL, but you got to be worried about how good you're going to be next year.
Because teams like that, though, Gene, they're almost like the Alabama level. Well, they just reload now. It's crazy what college sports have got, these top programs, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, those type programs. They just seem to, no matter what they lose in the draft, they find a way to reload. Hey, Gene, did I lose you?
But we were just commenting.
Hey, there you are, Gene.
All right, yeah, we lost you a little bit on your comment, but yeah, repeat your comment here.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, I mean, that, I don't know what you heard, but yeah, that's the kind of the draft is. You talk about Georgia losing all those players. I mean, with Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson, those are just teams that no matter how many of the guys they lose, they seem to just reload year after year. So I think Georgia will be just fine. But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big accomplishment to have that many guys go in the draft.
It is an amazing accomplishment.
And so I just wanted to ask you, Gene, kind of to close it out a little bit, wrap up. But like I know we talked about this earlier, but do you have a biggest team that was the biggest winner for you in the draft overall? Whether it was who they drafted, the trades they made, who was that number one team that you looked at and thought, they had the best draft weekend as far as what they got?
Oh, it was the New York Jets by far.
The Jets, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm not even a Jets fan, and I know I have beat the Jets up year in and year out every year because of the schedules, because of their quarterback selections, because of everything. And but man, this year they got it right. They said they are not going to be the laughing stock of the. As a matter of fact, I think the Jets. I guarantee you, they won't have these type of picks next year because they're going to be that much better on the field. And I know they're in a tough division. But, man, look for that AFC East to be interesting because the Jets are going to beat some people.
Yeah, I definitely think they were probably – I think I have two teams that were the top winners. It was them, the Jets. Obviously, they had great first four picks. And then the team, I said it earlier, Gene, half of it was draft picks and half of it was a trade. I think the Philadelphia Eagles had – probably the second best weekend because, again, you finally you get a guy like A.J. Brown where you can finally say, hey, Jalen, you're the guy, Jalen Hurts. We're giving you the weapons. You don't have to look over your shoulder. This is your team. And they were 9-8 last year. They were a couple of games behind getting in that playoffs. But I think with A.J. Brown being a number one receiver and locking him up, and then you got to look at it. They drafted Jordan Davis from Georgia in the first round, who is a monster defensive tackle. And then they got Nakobe Dean, who was Georgia's best linebacker with pick number 83. So I really like what they did, and I think the Eagles are the front runners in the NFC East.
Well, I tell you what, no one can say at the end of the day that the Eagles are not giving Hurts a chance.
That's right.
I think this guy's going to have a lot of pressure on him, and I hope
it's him and Tua. Those are the two guys that are going to have the biggest pressure.
A lot of pressure.
Yes.
And I hope that he can, that he can get it done. But yeah, I'm really happy for Philly and those Jets. I think they did really good.
Do you have the Eagles as the favorite in the NFC East over Dallas, or are you still leaning Dallas?
I'm going to still lean towards Dallas because whereas Dallas, the Eagles are going to have to mesh this stuff together and see how it works. Dallas is going to come in ahead of the game because they already got that continuity going. So I'm going to give them a little edge. Plus with that defense, I think Dallas defense is probably only going to get better.
But they did lose Randy Gregory, and they did lose Amari Cooper, and they did lose Lael Collins. I mean, they lost a little bit.
And so we got to see. I do agree that it's going to be between Dallas and Philly. I just don't know what to expect from the Commanders and the Giants. The Giants, it's going to take them a little bit longer.
Yes,
but Dustin, hey man, this has been great. I want to thank everyone that's in the chat room listening to us live here as we stream here on Podbean. And what we'll do, Dustin, now we got to flip our whole script here and get ready for some more exciting NBA playoffs here. So I think next week we will come back and sort of follow up on the second round, see where things are going. But I can say this, Dustin, I will be in Memphis for Game 5 between the Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors. So expect a podcast to come out of Memphis next Wednesday or Thursday, I think. Yeah. May 11th, whatever day that is. So can't wait to get back into the NBA talk there. But anyway, Dustin, man, thanks again for coming on. You enjoy the rest of your Cinco de Mayo. And everyone else, you guys have a great Cinco de Mayo. Don't overindulge and enjoy your no NBA games, by the way, tonight.
That's right. You know what there is tonight, though, Gene? Your Pittsburgh Penguins. Can they bounce back? Don't think I didn't see the video about the NHL. And let me just throw my team in there. Go Hurricanes, because they've already got a 2-0 lead on the Boston Bruins. So
yeah, I should have knew that you were going to catch me with that jersey on, man. Hey, and by the way, that was a Mario Lemieux jersey, which I couldn't wait to wear.
Awesome, that's awesome.
But yeah, they pulled that game out, and it was it was a nail biter. But yes, I do watch NHL. I know we don't talk about it a lot on the show, but yes, I will be watching a little bit of baseball and NHL Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. And so, yes, there's always going to be something on TV
That's right.
to
That's
watch.
right.
So, hey, folks, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you back on the next podcast here on the MeanGene Show, streaming live here on Podbean. We are out of here.